this is typically where you're going to be before you go into MarkUp. And it's just a little bit of background, just for those of you who don't know. MarkUp is backed by a company called Saros. It's a 200-person company based out of New York City. And Saros's product here essentially allows you to create any experiential content without having to code. And what people do inside the Saros studio is build some of the most remarkable content that I've ever seen. So we know that this problem had affected a lot of Saros customers for the longest time in terms of, I have a piece of content, I want to share it, I want to get it out for feedback. There's no easy way to go about doing that, taking screenshots, putting it into Google Doc, and trying to keep track of changes in Excel sheets and siloed PM tools. And so we started MarkUp back in January. We had about 1,000 total users, and today we're actually nearing about 55,000 total users. So we're incredibly excited about the growth, but we do know that there's a ton of work still to be done. And again, just a big focal point of this webinar is being able to connect with you all to make sure that we answer the questions that you have. So again, we're going to start out. This is the Saros Studio. This is the content creation engine. This could be your CMS if you're not a Saros customer. But essentially, I would grab a preview link of the site that I have. And if I grab a preview link here, this is what my site looks like. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready for feedback. Really cool, but I've got some Latin text in there. I just want to be able to get some basic feedback from people on my team or any client. So slide this out of the way here. So the first thing you're going to do, and just as a reminder, when you go to markup.io, if you're telling clients or colleagues or anyone on your team, it's very easy to sign up. If you're a Saros customer and you have a seat in the Saros admin, you simply type in your email that's associated with your seat, and then you use the same password that you have inside the Saros Studio, you're good to go. If you are a Saros customer but you don't have a seat in the admin, just use your work email address and any password you want. And if you're completely new and not affiliated with Saros in any way, which many of you are, simply sign up. Very easy to do, takes 30 seconds. If you've ever had issues with signing in or signing up, we've worked on it extensively over the last year. We think we're in a good spot, but please let us know in the Q&A. And if there's any issues there, we can certainly address it. So this is what your dashboard looks like when you come into MarkUp. And yes, again, MarkUp's bread and butter has always been URLs. That could be a preview link, it could be staging link, anything that's published. Type in a URL, you paste it here, click go or press enter, and then MarkUp is going to fire up a project for you. We also came up with images this year as another way to encompass more of the creative process. So yes, we're not trying to take over Figma and InVision, right? At least, not yet. This is just a really good way for you to be able to take any type of prototype or wireframe that you're working on. And if you're already doing something in MarkUp, use the image upload, right? It doesn't have to be just a URL. Any PNG, JPEG that you want, throw it in the image upload, works just the same way, share with anyone that you want. So definitely want to make sure we highlight that. And then you'll see me do this throughout the webinar today. I want to take this time to talk about things that are coming as we're going through the product. So yes, PDFs are coming. Everyone has requested it. It comes up time and time again in intercom, email. We know it's important. Everyone still uses PDFs. It's going to come. Aaron, who is our lead dev, might hate me for saying this, but I'm going to go ahead and say hopefully by February is when we believe that'll be out. Certainly Q1, but PDFs are coming. We're really excited about that. It's not only going to help you with uploading different types of files in MarkUp, but I think it's also just going to help us in general attract more users and even more people at your respective companies or clients that like to use PDFs but haven't been able to. So it is definitely coming. And that's the first thing I wanted to point out here. That will be coming out in Q1, hopefully. I also want to throw out, so over here on the top right side, this is your, like your account page. So when we first started MarkUp, the goal was we want to make sure it works with any URL. We want to make sure that it's easy to use and seamless for sharing. We will admit, we didn't really focus a whole lot on this whole account page and how you invite team members. And in fact, we're actually just going through some recent data. It seems like of the 50,000 plus users we have, I think we have less than 500 people who have actually created some level of an account. So you can make the claim that maybe that's because this page really isn't as tidy as it should be, or the fact that people just like sharing projects and don't necessarily invite people to their team account. So that's another point I wanted to mention here. If you do have an issue with Teams in any way as it is right now, it is going to get completely revamped next year. Everything that we have around Teams You're going to have folders, you're going to have roles and permissions. This is something that we are going to spend a ton of time on in terms of making sure that it is a comprehensive process from start to finish inside of MarkUp, and there's no room for doubt. And we just wanted to admit that we know that teams and accounts isn't super intuitive right now, and it seems like most people are just fine with sharing projects with colleagues, and that's it. But we will say that if you do invite somebody to your account, they're going to have access to all of your projects. That's how that works. So they'll come in as somebody that can see any project that you've created in that account. If you just sign up for your personal MarkUp account and you share a project with someone, they're only going to have access to that project. They're not going to have access to any other projects within your account. And so things like roles and permissions and who you give access to certain projects to, that is all coming next year. And we're really, really excited about it. But we'll be the first to admit it hasn't been as well executed as we wanted to, because we just didn't focus on it. We wanted to make sure that we continue to focus on scalability, reliability, performance, speed of the product. And that's going to be a major focus continuing into next year, but we will be focusing on having more of a comprehensive teams plan. So that is that. And then just very simply, if I wanted to just go back to my dashboard and just click that MarkUp logo there. So I fired up a project. Last thing I want to point out on the dashboard page is that you can actually edit projects here. So you can edit the name. So I'll call this project 1. And you'll see that we have this icon down here. If you have any comments within your existing project, you'll notice that that's there. So I've already pulled this up. So as soon as I pop into my MarkUp project, there are 2 modes. There's comment versus browse. The default mode is comment mode. Browse mode allows you to jump to different parts of the site if you are working in a multi-page experience or just multi-page website. The point of browse mode is just to be able to jump around to, let's say there was a button here to learn more. Browse lets me click there. Comment just lets me click and leave a comment on that button, but browse actually lets me go to that other part of the page. We think we're going to keep it for now. It has come up a few times where people have been confused by that. So we think it's fine, but if anyone has ever had any confusion around that, again, please let us know. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to leave a test comment. So again, you can click anywhere and MarkUp will pick up on location of where you want to place that comment. So let's change, can't spell today, blue. So that's comment 1. All of your comments are going to pop over here on the left-hand side. You can close and expand this comment bar if you want. And I think sometimes people do miss this. If you actually click into the comment, this is where you can edit the comment if you want. You can delete it. And you can also click on this arrow here. And that's going to show you what browser was I using, what's my screen size, what's my operating system, or for whoever was reviewing in that comment. So really valuable information there. And this is also where you can start creating threads. So if I was another user, yes, sounds good. You'll start to be able to create threads in this space here. So again, if you've been using the product for a while, you probably knew that. If you're new, maybe you didn't, but definitely want to highlight that's where a lot of the cool stuff will come. And going to pause here. This is another area where we do have a new feature coming out soon. We will eventually allow you to tag users. We think it'll be ready maybe in the next 1 to 2 weeks. We'll see. It might even get pushed to next year. Started for one-on-one conversations with specific users. And today the default behavior is if someone notification, but now if I just tag someone like Jack or Serena in a comment, only they're going to be able to get a notification for that. So getting a little bit better about how clearly we communicate things in the project. As I go down here, I'm really excited about this. So we just came out with this maybe 2 months ago, comment attachments. So let's say I wanted to swap out this image with attached. This button here, simply click that. It's going to pull up a list of files from your library. And I'm going to say, let's use this slide here. So now that's going to take a second to populate the comment. You can add more files if you want. Click OK, and then post. And now, just by clicking in here, I see that the pin stick's there. I can click into this image. I can expand it if I want. And I can also, excuse me, sorry, there we go. exit out, and I can download that directly from here if I want. So again, if you're working in a really massive team environment, or even if you're just working one-on-one with a client, the ability to just continually upload images without having to leave MarkUp and pull them in from other areas is super valuable. And next year, we will have a ton of integrations in this space. So if you want to be able to pull in an asset from Figma, InVision, you want to be able to have a conversation with somebody and have one of these threads go out to Slack, that is all coming next year. And we're really, really excited about that. We just hadn't had a chance to get to it this year. And I know it's been requested a ton of times in Intercom. It comes up all the time. We are really excited about all the integrations coming. I would say that's mostly the back end of Q1, a lot of Q2, and probably topped off in Q3. And again, that will be any project management tool, or at least the top ones that most commonly coming up from all of you. A lot of the prototyping tools that are out there, InVision, Figma, Zeppelin, XD, we see a lot of that. Communications tools, Slack and Teams. But again, if you have other recommendations for things you would want to see an integration with, please let us know. It's worth noting, and we don't know if we're going to get to it next year, but the ability to integrate with whatever CMS you're already using. People are always saying like, oh, can I just have an integration with WordPress? We don't have a specific timeline. We do know it'll make things a lot easier, and you can jump from WordPress right into MarkUp. But for now, we're still focusing on a lot of the tier 1 integrations from PM tools, communications tools, prototyping tools. And we're really, really excited about that. The last thing I want to point out here, so you've noticed this entire time I've been leaving comments and there have been no screenshots. About 4 or 5 months ago, we came out with a Chrome extension. And you probably have heard us say this a lot. If we've ever talked to you in Intercom, this has come up in most conversations. The Chrome extension was made for a couple of reasons. Namely, you can actually just create a project from any website that you're on by clicking the extension up here and then just clicking create markup. And you can also access any project that you want directly just from a click here. So what's interesting though, is when we talk to people, they're like, all right, Alex, like, I have a client or somebody on my team, like they're just really fickle about adding extensions. It is so easy to add this extension. And we try to say that over and over. It's really, really easy. And if you come in here, we'll send you this link afterwards. I believe we send this in a bunch of onboarding emails. So you've probably gotten this from Greg or I. You go to the site. This normally says just add to Chrome. It takes 2 seconds. And as soon as you have it there, you don't have to do anything else. You can obviously click on it if you want to create a project from any URL that you're on, but you simply just need to have that installed. And that enables you to do what our favorite thing is, which is turn screenshots on. So this is not a default behavior inside the core app, just because it's a little tricky to pull off technically. It's something that we think we might be able to pull off next year. But for now, in order to get screenshots with any comment, you have to have the extension installed. But I don't want that to sound laborious. It's very easy just to add that to your Chrome toolbar and start placing screenshots with comments. So if I turn this on here, now you're going to see, let's say I go back up this way and click this. It's going to take an automatic screenshot down here, and I'll say change to blue. So now I can click in this. It's taken a screenshot for me. I click into the screenshot, and I can also click to show pin. Now, that's great, especially if you're tracking changes over time, and I'll get to that in a second. But what's really interesting, and this comes up probably the most in Intercom, or if you've never actually expressed this issue, we know it's a big deal and we're working to fix it. Jumping to pins isn't always accurate. We know, and we're definitely working on it. Sometimes pins get lost. Outside of the fact that sometimes pins might not stick as well as they should, we will say that if you ever change your URL structure, or if you remove something entirely from a project that a pin was tied to, those are most common cases for why pins will disappear. So again, if you're working on a URL and you change the structure of the URL, the pin is typically being told to be tied to an element on that page. And as soon as you change the URL, it doesn't know what it's sticking to and it's no longer there. So those are the most common reasons. And then the other one is when you're working with hotspots, especially if you're a Sarah's customer and you're working with a lot of interactive content. Most of you have probably seen some sort of message that says the element this comment was pinned to cannot be found, or this pin is hidden. And yes, we know that is really, really annoying, and we're working tirelessly to make sure that is a continually improved experience. But for now, in terms of finding pins, this is the best, most recommended way to go about finding pins when you're working in a project. And again, please don't feel that it's putting a ton of strain on your client or your colleague to actually add the extension. It takes 2 seconds and it'll save you a ton of time. But I will reiterate, next year, the focus continues to be on performance, reliability, making sure that the product works as well as it should. And for those of you that have had issues and have talked to us at Intercom, we are aware of it and we're definitely working on it. I want that to be known, like things will continue to get better. And we thank you for being patient in a lot of these areas, but adding something as simple as the Chrome extension is going to help a ton with that. So now that is done, I also wanted to point out very quickly, just as you come down here, you'll see that I pulled up this settings icon. You can actually show pins in browse mode if you want. Right now, the default behavior is anytime you're in common mode, the pins are here. If you go to browse mode, pins disappear. If you want to be able to still see them, you can tap that. And if you're tired of getting email notifications, you can just toggle that off as well. And then also down here, desktop, tablet, and mobile views, you can actually click into those and be able to see your project on a tablet device or mobile device. Another 2021 roadmap thing, and it probably will be between Q1 and Q2, is custom breakpoints. And this has come up a lot, probably more so than any other feature that people would actually want to see in the product, is the ability to actually have custom breakpoints, assigning a screen size that fits with whatever their client or their colleagues need to see. Right now, we have a very standardized breakpoint in MarkUp. We do not allow you to customize those. That is all coming next year. So we're really, really excited about that. It is coming. We are aware of it. But for now, these are very custom. And I believe we either were in the process of or do have a support article on what the actual standard sizes are right now. If it's not published, we'll take care of it later and make sure it's out there. But custom breakpoints are definitely coming. Okay, so I'm gonna pop into, I'm gonna make sure I show you all the sharing best practice. So again, when it comes to sharing a project, we want to make sure that it's super easy for people to use. And I think a lot of times people will just try to type in an email address and click send and just hope a client sees it. It's fine. Again, we didn't really expand upon this too much. Like you could type in an email address and you can only go one at a time. We didn't add in the ability to do semicolon and add multiple people here. So it has to be one at a time. Really the most recommended way is just copying this link. And for those of you that have ever copied this link, you know that it is ridiculously long. That is also going to be changed next year. We're going to shorten the URLs. I think it's like a paragraph when you actually send the invite link, and we're aware of it. It's going to get better next year, but this is the best way to actually share a project. So copy this link. You can put it in communications channel like Slack or Teams. You can put it in Jira. Again, until we have things that are fully integrated where a lot of your comments are already going into things like Jira or Teams, this is the best way to send it out. Or just copy the link. You can hyperlink it into text and put it in an email to 5 or 10 colleagues or clients. So this is the best, most recommended way of just sharing a project, just copying that link. But what I do want to show you is what it looks like from an incognito perspective, and want to make sure that you can still see screen for incognito. Cool. So on the receiving end of a project, this is what it looks like when you send that link out. And again, I'll be the first to admit, we've talked about this as a team. I think it might be easier if we just let people come in and start commenting and then later on say like, hey, we noticed you're a guest. Like before you leave the project, you need to actually type in a name. But for now, the default behavior is I'm a guest or I'm somebody that just received this project. I have no idea what MarkUp is. You were like, hey, leave comments here. I'm like, okay, cool. Sounds good. I'll pop in here. I can see all the comments that you've made, but now as soon as I go to click, I'm going to get prompted with this screen. Now, to some people, we've heard that it is a little daunting. Maybe they're like, why is MarkUp forcing me to sign up or sign in? That is not the case at all. If you want to share this with anybody across your org, they just need to type in a name, Alex Test, and continue as guest. If they want to be able to receive email notifications for the project that they're working on, they just type in an email as well, and then they're good to go. But there's no full sign up required. And I think, this is something that we're definitely looking at closely next year. I think there is probably a better way that we can make guests come into a project. But for now, this is just the easiest way for people to come into a project. Do not need to sign up in full. Do not need to sign in. Just a name, that's it. Continue as guest. But it is something that we're definitely looking at next year. Let me pop this out of the way. Cool. So a couple of other things real quick. In terms of sorting comments, not sure how many people are aware of this, but if you have 100 comments in a project, which we actually have seen quite a few teams have, You can organize these by low to high, high to low in terms of numbers, or latest activity. And latest activity is anything from a new comment or a new thread within a previous comment. So we were excited about that. It seemed to have helped teams quite a bit. But certainly one of the things that we're going to be expanding upon next year, another 2021 roadmap piece, is the ability to add priorities to comments, labels, and being able to assign tasks to people. This kind of gets into the last bit that I wanted to cover here in terms of best practices, so we have time for Q&A. It's really on you right now to establish the best practice for, I'm going to create a project. Maybe I'm a designer, or maybe I'm a director of marketing, but I want to send it out to people, to my team. Today, there is no way of knowing like who's getting assigned what. And until we have tagging users, it's still not even fully clear on, hey, I want you to look at comments 1 through 10, but that will get revamped. We're definitely looking at that. You'll be able to assign tasks or assign comments to people, and then show who has the permission in terms of signing off. Because today, we're aware of this. And I've talked to a few of you at Intercom and email about this as well in terms of best practices. It is really like, if I send a project out and you say, hey, change this to blue, and then it comes back to me, well, do I resolve it or do you resolve it? It really comes down to you establishing that process up front. But next year, we're going to make sure we cover a lot of those bases where you will have full transparency on who's in charge of what comments, who's in what projects, and then we'll have an activity log that also says, Zarina cleared this comment, or Zarina resolved this comment. So today, I know that is a little ambiguous. I also did want to share a video around new comment cards that we are going to be coming out with, a new UI for the comment cards, because this does, at this point, a year into it, we're like, yeah, it's a little stale. It needs some work. And Jack actually did an incredible job designing it, but I don't know if I will be able to get to it today. So that is just one thing I wanted to point out, that those things are coming. And then the very last thing before we get to Q&A is just showing you how these things are connected. So essentially, if I was in the my CMS platform, or in this case the Sarah Studio, and I wanted to actually change something in my CMS, and unfortunately it's not loading. Basically, the point of being able to connect these two, your CMS and MarkUp, or Sarah's and MarkUp, is to sort of have an agile process around how do we make changes. So here, for instance, if I look at comment 3 and I said change to blue, and someone was in my CMS or was in the Sarah Studio and actually changed this to blue, and this showed up as blue on the screen, I could go in and say, okay, that's good. And when that goes to resolve, you'll see that disappears from the active screen, but still shows up here as resolved, as grayed out. But I could go in and say, okay, what did that look like before? It's blue now, but I see the screenshot. Okay, it was white. So yeah, that's a good change. I like that. Or say, maybe you want to start a thread and unresolve this. Clicking unresolve, come back here and say, you know what? Let's change to pink, because pink is really in. So again, it's just establishing your best practices for how you want to change things. We don't have any semblance of versioning today in MarkUp. If you are Sarah's customer, something that has come up a few times in conversations with Sarah's customers is they like to create a project and then make a copy of it. And that copy kind of stays as version 1 in the studio. And then the second one that they've created is the one that they start making changes to. And once they've resolved all their comments in MarkUp, they say, okay, cool, let's create another one. They make a copy and so on and so forth. So that seems to work well, but it really is just about your team and your clients, your colleagues, just establishing a plan up front for how you want to go about who's in charge of things. That will get more automated next year with a lot of the product improvements that we have in place. So that is pretty much mostly what I wanted to cover. I want to make sure that I do have time to go through more roadmap things. So I did cover PDFs. In terms of integrations, Zapier will actually be our first integration next year. That could be as soon as February, but maybe March. But that's an easy way for everyone to actually kind of set up their own custom integrations. So we're excited about getting that one out first. So Zapier is definitely going to be the first one next year. Talked about comment labels. Exporting comments. We see this a lot in Intercom. Exporting comments is definitely on the roadmap for next year. We know it's something that people love to do and still make it easy for them to do that. Today, obviously you can't, but it will be coming next year. Something that comes up a lot is exporting comments as part of the entire project into a PDF. And you can actually look at the PDF and say, here are all the comments I have from MarkUp. It's super intriguing. We haven't really fleshed it out. I won't say that it's on the 2021 roadmap, but maybe it gets bumped up. Really, really interesting comments, and we see it quite often. But basic exporting to CSV and maybe just exporting all those comments out into your PM software, that we expect to be in place by next year. And then team chats, I talked about activity logs, but having an internal team chat. Right now, Greg and I are the ones that run most of the support conversations on top of everything else. And we want to make sure that at some point, it's not just us being a little bubble inside your project, but actually your team. And there's a way for you to communicate with your team in chat form. That is coming out next year. We're really excited about that. I think that's going to allow for more collaboration outside of more just static comments, but being able to just actively engage and talk about things in the project is coming next year. And I will say the very last thing before we get to Q&A, I want to reiterate, just reliability, speed, and performance. These are the things that we are dedicated to solving next year as a team. We know we need to tackle it. We know that there's still a couple of quirks with the product and that, yes, it's made a lot of strides. And we went from 0 to 50,000 users in less than a year, but there's still so much more that we need to do to make sure that this is an integral part of your workflow, that everything feels good, that you're comfortable sharing it out with clients and colleagues. And we know that there's a lot of work to be done, and we're going to focus relentlessly on that. I can promise you that we're really, really focused on making sure this product is stable, secure, and makes your lives so much easier going into next year. So with that, I'm going to open it up to everyone else. We're 33 minutes in, so I think it's a good enough time to hop into Q&A. And
Alex,
I'm so far behind on, thanks, E.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love seeing how much the platform has grown over the past year, and so excited about everything that's to come for next year. I know we have a lot of questions here, so we're going to try to get through most of them. And I think you touched on this a couple of minutes ago, but there were questions about the integration specifically. I'm probably going to butcher the name of this specific company, but I think it's called Asana or Zapier. And I know you said Zapier, but I'm not sure if I heard Asana, unless that's not how you say it.
Yeah. So I didn't point out Asana, but that's one of the tier 1 project management integrations we're going to cover. So I mentioned Zapier will be first, but Asana by all means will be in place next year. Yep.
And another one that we had a question about for another integration for project managers is Jira.
Yes. And again, I will say, if I didn't do a good enough job kind of highlighting that, I would say Asana, Jira, Trello, Monday.com, possibly even ClickUp. ClickUp is very possible. They also just raised a bunch of money today. We saw, which is crazy. They're growing like weed. But the tier 1 project management software integrations will be the focus. And then we're going to kind of see what else is left over by the end of the year and see what else we need to focus on. But if it's like a household name like Asana, Jira, Trello, certainly will be in place. Yeah.
Amazing. And a couple more. Now, we had this one come up a couple of times, and some of the users are wondering if the pricing will ever change, or if it'll be free for users.
Yeah. So, and thanks for bringing this up, because I didn't cover it and want to make sure I am transparent about that. The core product is always going to be free. So everything that you are using today inside of MarkUp will be free. A lot of the things that we're going to expand upon next year in terms of really like project management-y, team-oriented things, and even integrations, those are going to be on a paid plan. We still have not figured out the ideal pricing for it. It's somewhere between maybe $5 and $15 per month per user. But that's also, to be fully transparent, it's like if you're working with 40 people in your company, but only one person is coming in like once a month to review something, or maybe you have your own web design agency and you work with clients and they'll just review something once every 2 months. They're not going to be a paid user. The only one that would be paid is the person that's actually controlling the account and organizing things. And if you have a bunch of people in the account, that's what will be on that pricing plan. But again, we're still fleshing out what components will be on that. We do believe, I don't want to speak too soon, we do believe, at least in terms of the integration, Zapier will probably be free. But again, I don't want to speak too soon. We're gonna see how we can roll that out, and we're certainly going to want to experiment with a lot of you in terms of beta testing a lot of these things. But the paid tier will be coming next year, and a lot of these project management things and team-oriented features will be coming next year as part of the paid plan. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex, and appreciate you being so transparent. I'm sure the audience does as well. And then, is there any way where users can limit the amount of comments or toggle this on and off, or I guess limiting the access to commenting as well?
Yeah, so we especially if the team is on the call. We didn't necessarily talk about it for the roadmap, but it has come up a lot and we're aware of it. So it will be a part of the product. I don't have a timeline, but we do think it's something that makes sense to be part of that team or paid plan where you could turn that off for certain clients, especially if maybe you have one person that went in, left comments, but you don't want somebody else to see that. We get it. It does come up a lot and we want to have it in. I can't speak to if it will be in place next year, but we'll definitely be looking at that for sure.
Cool. And I think that is really it for questions. If we did not get to your question, you can always reach out to Alex at MarkUp. He's always there and very excited to chat with everyone.
Yes. And let me see. Z, I'm just going through the rest of these here. Designer. Okay. Talked about that. Demo, creating a screenshot. Okay. Something that would be really helpful in a short walkthrough users. Yeah. So this last one here, William, you talked about being able to just have a better walkthrough. We were just talking about this as a team. We actually had it in the product initially and then decided to back out of it. We thought sort of onboarding, we didn't want to cloud the onboarding process and see a bunch of pop-ups, but we actually do think it'd be really helpful. We do have a markup support section and we recommend sending that to clients to look at things in terms of best practices. And we have a YouTube channel, but I completely agree with you. I think having some level of an onboarding flow, it used to be Greg actually who kind of pop up on the screen. We'll probably come back to that pretty soon because yeah, I mean, not everybody will immediately get markup. We think it's super intuitive and I think a lot of people do, but there's still moments where, you want to know something a little bit more intimately and to have somebody there who can walk you through it. We're going to have it in place. We were just talking about it. So.
And I think just based on some of these questions, if you could just kind of help new users get to know what the support system's like, if people can reach out to you intercom, if there's hours, if there's an email where people can direct their questions from, I think it'd be helpful to all those new users.
Yeah, no problem, William. Yeah, thanks, C. I really want to make sure we get to all these. Are most of these overlap or did I maybe already cover them? Okay. Sketch app plugin. Yeah, we talked about Sketch. Yeah, I think Sketch. Yeah, absolutely. Although to that point, Jason, I don't know if it'll be a plugin per se. Probably just be something that we actually build on our end and allow you to just integrate any files from Sketch, but not something that we would build in Sketch's library. And same thing with a lot of these other plugins. So we were talking about maybe doing a WordPress plugin, but we'd probably just have the integration on our end to be able to connect to WordPress in some way from MarkUp versus the other way around. Limit the comments. Yep. Hide all these things. Okay. Well, yeah, again, I really appreciate everyone who was able to come on. I hope you got a lot out of it. If I didn't answer any questions, like Zarina said, please message Greg and I in the support section through intercom. It's the chat button, little blue button at the bottom right of the app. And feel free to always email us. I mean, please, again, we really want this to be a powerful tool for you and something that just continues to get better over time. The only way it's going to get better is not us, sitting in meetings every week and brainstorming what needs to be done. It's directly coming from you all. So we really appreciate this. It sounds like a lot of these things are things that we're already thinking about, but we know we have a lot of work cut out for us next year and in the years ahead. So want to continue to improve upon the product, and your feedback is just immensely helpful. So.
Thanks so much, Alex.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you coming. And yeah, again, any questions, feel free to let us know. Okay. Cool.